We're waking you up after a major Sunday as Morning Drive gets you ready to sit down with the U.S. Open champion Brooks Koepka, a motivated guy with big dreams who has dealt with not living up to his potential before Sunday's victory.
It got to the point where I was extremely frustrated. I felt like I should have won 3, 4, 5 times already on the PGA Tour, and I hadn't done that. So it was something I needed to kind of take a step back, and instead of trying to press to win, something I needed to let come to me.
That and so much more coming from the first-time major champion, including how his international experience helped him Sunday at Erin Hills. Plus, we are live all morning long in Rhode Island, where our own Gary Williams is at the CVS Health Charity Classic. Gary, what's going on out there this morning?
That's exactly right, Lauren. We're going to be joined by a number of major champions, and they will tell you what it's like to have that life-changing experience to join that very exclusive club all morning long on a Monster Monday on Morning Drive.
And good morning. Welcome into Morning Drive. It is Monday, June the 19th, the year 2017, and golf has a new major star, according to the front page of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and he is Brooks Koepka, U.S. Open champion. From newspapers to Twitter, everyone had a take. Here is no laying up with a screenshot from the iconic film Shawshank Redemption, a movie on incarceration and friendship. And yes, indeed, Brooks was here. And with that, we welcome you inside Studio AP Damon Hack alongside Carr Robinson, LPGA veteran Paige McKenzie. Guys, I was watching the golf yesterday and tweeting as well, and I typed Brooks was here in all caps, and I thought I was really cool, only to see that 15 minutes earlier, no laying up had beat me to it with that cool screenshot.
Now I realize Brooks is not a super common name, and I get the connection, but really, about a prison movie is like Brooks now out of jail, like
redemption.
He's now one of them.
Did he need redemption?
In his own mind, perhaps.
That's interesting. Actually, you're right to hear him saying he felt that he had underachieved in his career so far. That is certainly not the case now, and what a wonderful Sunday it was for Brooks Koepka.
Definitely. What's happening now?
Well, let's get straight to it. And the weekend winners were highlighted, of course, by Brooks Koepka's record-tying 16 under par to match the best score in U.S. Open history as the 27-year-old claimed his first major championship at Erin Hills.
All right, Carr, how about from Brooks to Brooke? Brooke Henderson, a final round 66 to win the Meyer LPGA Classic by 2 shots over Michelle Wie and Lexi Thompson. Henderson, 19 years of age, now has 4 LPGA wins.
And the 2016 NCAA individual champion Aaron Wise captured his first professional win at the Air Capital Classic. The 20-year-old from South Africa finished the week at 21 under par, 5 shots ahead of another former college standout, Bo Hostler. While the victory earned Wise special temporary membership for the remainder of the season on the Web.com tour, Damon.
All right, Carr and Paige, let's see how Brooks got it done. He made it look easy, missing the green on 13, this putt for par.
It's an odd thing to say, missing the green only one time on Sunday, but beautiful par save.
Makes that putt, stays tied for the lead with Brian Harman. After a Harman bogey, Koepka now up 1. This third shot from the bunker on the par 5 14.
Yeah, and I love we saw some par 5 scoring this week at a U.S. Open, and this using a little bit of creativity, using a little backstop.
Not just a big hitter, showing a lot of touch. He'd make that birdie. He'd go up 2 strokes on Harman. Now the par 4 15. Played as the hardest hole in round 4.
Well, and this is what the USGA will do to you. It played as the easiest hole in the 3rd round and then the hardest hole in the final round. But Brooks making it look easy with that incredible approach. Very difficult, tucked hole location.
And he would make that for another birdie to take a 3-shot lead over Brian Harman. Now on to the 16th and another birdie putt.
Well, and after 2 birdies in a row and this just standing so confidently over the putt, I had to say, this has got to go in.
3 birdies in a row for Koepka, gets to 16 under. And I love the walk, just kind of sashaying around. Look at the pace of the gate, completely in control. And now on the par 5 18th hole, putting for the win.
Yeah, and I love a 2-putt par to win and just a tap in remaining.
4-shot win, 16 under par, tying Rory McIlroy for the most strokes under par in a U.S. Open. He would not be denied a 10-year exemption of U.S. Opens for Brooks Koepka. Moves to number 10 in the world, and golf now has its 7th consecutive first-time major champion.
Cool, calm, and collected, Damon. And with that 67, Brooks produced the lowest final round by U.S. Open champion since Tiger Woods in 2000. We will have an exclusive sit-down interview with Koepka coming up, and we will also be joined by his swing coach, Claude Harmon, live later in the show today. But for now, let's listen to some reaction from last night in Wisconsin, and we'll start with his longtime caddy, Ricky Elliott.
Does this journey together, all the travel you guys have had in the last couple of years, make this even sweeter?
It does, yeah. I mean, he's come. I mean, everybody sort of knows the story. He came through Europe and things, and he is an American, and he wants to win on his home tour, and he only did it once. So to win as that National Open is, I'm sure that'll take a while to sink in. So I think he'll even smile.
I think he achieved his potential. It's amazing, Todd, when you see these guys. We're so lucky to work with these great athletes, and when they come out, some of them have, enormous potential. They have a lot of hype. They have a lot of, expectations on them. But when you see these guys, over the course of 3, 4, 5 years, put in the work and go through the trials and tribulations that you have to go through to see a player that you could see at 5 years ago when I met him, that you could see that he had the talent, but you never know if they're going to be able to put it together. But it's just been an amazing run, and to get to watch him do what he's always wanted to do, that's the coolest thing in the world for us.
Well, at 16 under par, Koepka matched Rory McIlroy's winning score from the 2011 US Open at Congressional when he won by 8 shots. It was a 4-shot margin of victory yesterday for Brooks over Hideki Matsuyama and Brian Harman when Tiger Woods got to 12 under par at Pebble Beach in 2000. Don't forget, his nearest competitor was 15 shots behind. That was certainly a historic week. Well, let's react to the 7th straight first-time major winner. And we can welcome in Gary Williams. He is at the CVS Health Charity Classic, and he will join in the conversation. But first of all, Paige, I want to start with you. What were you most impressed by about Brooks' performance yesterday?
I think a lot of people talked about the 17 greens in regulation. You shoot 5 under par on a Sunday of a major championship, let alone a U.S. Open. That's all impressive. But what really stood out to me was just his demeanor on the golf course. Early in the round, our producer emailed me and said, "Who do you have?" And I'm like, after 5 holes, I saw Brooks Koepka. So the way that he is carrying himself around this golf course, he looked so in control of not only his game, but of his mind. And that's what you need in a U.S. Open. It is so grueling for 4 days in these difficult conditions. And I know it was a little bit better scoring conditions, but at the same time, it still required the same kind of precision every single U.S. Open does. I was just most impressed by the way he handled himself mentally.
Unflappable was the word that came to my mind. You speak about it, controlling those emotions. Gary, you were out there all week long. You got to see a lot of this firsthand. Did it come to your mind that he was really going to be one of the guys to beat from the start this week?
Yeah, for sure, Cara. And, you used a word this morning in our morning meeting, unflappable. And I want to pick up on something that Damon said. Body language can speak very loudly. He looks very chill, but he saunters around, and he's got that look on his face, and the way he walks like, yeah, I got this. And for somebody who has never been in this position before, his trend line in majors has been improving every single time he goes out there. But the way he acted, the way he walked, it's like, I got this. I'm going to do this.
You're right, G-Dub. Some call it jock tough. In baseball, they call it a 5-tool player. Brooks Koepka has it all. He's not just a big hitter. We saw the short game. We saw the confidence. We also did see the mind. I thought before the round that with everything that was going to happen, an unpredictable golf course, the wind blowing, that he would be the best prepared just in his mind, because he just has that still heartbeat. He's someone that believes he belongs in the top of the game, and he proved it yesterday in really, really tough conditions.
Well, and his journey is something that's really not surprised me, but encouraged me for perhaps professionals coming up in the game in years to come. Gary mentioned something as well in our morning meeting today. He said it's surprising that he only had 1 PGA Tour win until now. Well, actually, if you look at the bigger picture, he has won 6 times worldwide the last 6 consecutive years. He amassed 4 wins total in Europe, 4 of them were on the Challenge Tour. One of them was in Europe. One of those Challenge Tour wins, by the way, was in Scotland. We all know what golf is like in Scotland. It's windy, it's linksy. It no doubt would have played a little bit similar to how it did yesterday. He, of course, then won in Turkey, which was a huge event on the European Tour's final series. Came back over here, got that win in the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Last year, he traveled to Dunlop Phoenix. He won in Japan. That's, of course, not an official event on either the PGA or European Tours. And then now he's won the US Open. He has definitely proved that his game travels. I believe that really helped him with the conditions that we saw at the golf course yesterday, Paige. And one other point, we all know where the next major championship is. It's going to be the Open at Royal Birkdale Golf Club. They actually had a really nice tweet yesterday saying they can't wait to welcome him there. This is it. Congratulations, Brooks, on your US Open success. We look forward to welcoming you for the 146th Open. For me, in fact, it's going to be fascinating to see not only Brooks, but Tommy Fleetwood turn up at Birkdale, because it's a home game for him, and both of them had a great run.
And I think both executed well under pressure come on Sunday. And I think I've said this many times since I turned professional, the best players aren't always on tour. And by that I mean the most talented, the most skilled players don't always make it because they're not there in their head. They're not there mentally. They're not there. They don't have the poise when they need it coming down the stretch. And that's what I think we saw from Tommy, but mostly from Brooks. I mean, he really stood out to me yesterday.
Absolutely, Paige. And G-Dub, for the bulk of our time as golf journalists, we've covered a dominant player in Tiger Woods. Now we're seeing 7 straight first-time winners that won major championships. Guys that are coming out to the professional ranks, able to win right away, believing they can win. What do you see that's happening in our game right now?
I think that there's more depth. There are more players who honestly believe at a younger age that they can do it. And they also, the specter of Tiger not being out there, and some people may say, just get over that. It was real. It was palpable. It was suffocating to a lot of players when he was dominating the way that he was. And one last point, and Cara's right to point out that he's traveled the world and he has won in a lot of places. But I think we are conditioned to do something we shouldn't do. We look at all these young guys and we go, well, gosh, he hadn't done enough yet. You know, when you look back 20, 30 years, that's when guys started to win major championships in their mid to late 20s. We're always looking for the next thing. This guy is a very young man.
And it was a very emphatic win for the now first-time major champion, age 27, Brooks Koepka. Gary, thanks so much for the insight. We know you'll be up in Rhode Island all day. We'll get back to you in just a little bit right now. Let's say good morning to Lauren Thompson. How are you, LT?
Good morning, Damon. Doing well. Not as well, though, as Brooks Koepka and this guy, his caddy. Check out this shot, though, from golf writer Adam Schupak. He said, how about the 18th hole winner's flag and that profile of Arnold Palmer, who was honored yesterday, the 1960 U.S. Open champion, something they get to take home. Very, very neat. Also this, something that the winner himself gets to take home, the trophy. And Alan Shipnuck, he is the senior writer on Sports Illustrated. He said, cool scene that I just sneaked into. Brooks Koepka watching over as his name is engraved into U.S. Open history and into that hardware. You want to see the finished product? No problem. How cool is this? The defending champion, Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, 2017, the 27-year-old, and his name just below it. Now, we're going to get more into the relationship and the impact of it between these two. But for now, Cara Robinson and Paige McKenzie, let's learn from our United States Open champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, please. Anything that we can do like him, I will take in my golf game. We've spoken a little bit about his mental strength, Paige. We've actually got someone lined up to delve into that a little bit deeper in just a minute. But let's look a little bit at the physical game and what you thought were the keys yesterday.
I think a big part of playing U.S. Open golf is positioning, and we saw that well done with Brooks Koepka all day. We're going to start on the 5th hole and just look at a couple of the shots that I felt like were key to his round and why it's important in a U.S. Open. I mean, they're challenging you mentally, but they're challenging you physically as well, putting hole locations in difficult positions. You can go ahead and roll this. And on the 5th hole, I just felt like off a little bit of a side hill lie, putting the ball in position. He jumped out to a quick start and continued that momentum with this particular shot.
It was crucial as well because after the 3rd round, when he got off to a slow start, he made a big point about how important it was that he played the front nine better yesterday, and he did.
He did. And moving to the 15th, one of the most difficult holes, or it was the most difficult hole on the last day, you just saw him pick the correct position. You pick the right side, or the left side of the target, but the correct side of the target as he approached. And I think that's just very key when playing any major championship course, let alone a U.S. Open. Positioning is key.
Okay, so he did position himself well, and I'm guessing that's not it. What else have we got?
I liked his poise under pressure.
Yeah.
And to me, poise is allowing a freedom of mind, not having tunnel vision. I think the tendency, go ahead and roll this, is to get too locked in on what you're doing and not have any sort of feel or creativity. And there's a balance there. You want to be intense, you want to be focused, but you still have to have the looseness of mind and not have that tunnel vision so that you can pull off shots with touch, with creativity. And that's what we were able to see from him, is that there was a relaxed state. There was a poise in which he accomplish what he did yesterday.
Well, and particularly that one we just saw on the 14th hole, he managed to get up and down. He hadn't had the best sound save statistics actually this season, but that was a crucial one at a good time. And you've got one more P for us, right?
Yes, and that is patience. I think with any major championship course, you have to have a level of patience.
Yeah.
And when things start to go sideways, par saves were everything. And the 13th hole, I thought, was the key hole for Brooks Koepka. This putt here on the 13th, just having a level of patience. There was no speeding up. You even heard Damon mention the saunter and the way that he walked. Everything about him almost looked like it slowed down the more pressure there was. And I feel like that's a very key point. If you find yourself in that pressure situation, slow everything down and have a level of patience in your work.
There's a lot to people for people to learn from that. And he said yesterday that his putting was just incredible. Par saves, I love that you pointed that out, because sometimes they're as big, if not bigger than a birdie putt, just to try and keep those bogeys off the card.
Especially in a major on a Sunday.
Yes, and there were a lot of them yesterday. We've got plenty more to come on Brooks Koepka. Now, though, we're going to send it to Damon, who's got a guy that knows a little bit about what might have gone on inside the mind, D.
Absolutely, Carl. Always great to have Dr. Gio Valiante in studio, the sports psychologist, but especially on the Monday after a major. Good morning, pal. How are you?
Good morning, Damon. I'm wonderful. Thank you.
What a great week and an interesting Sunday. Lots of texture, lots to take away. What was your biggest takeaway from the day?
You know, my biggest takeaway, well, there were many, and they were parallel. How hard it is to follow up a great round with another great round in the case of Justin Thomas, that Rory continues to sort of be an enigma in the game. That, you know, the universals in golf are there. Brooks Koepka, to this point, pressing and trying too hard to get a result. When he finally stops pressing and allows it to happen, he gets the win. So psychologically, all the universals that we know that work and or don't work.
He said it himself. I was trying to win too much. When I stopped trying to win, that's when good things started to happen. How hard is it for athletes or just a weekender to get into that state?
Well, it's interesting, right? It's what we call the paradoxes of flow. You know, Brooks Koepka was clearly in a flow state. And you contrast that with Ricky Fowler, and we'll talk about that later, who wasn't. But flow state is when these athletes get into the zone, right? That synergy, when everything in their being, their mind, their body, their will and intentions, it all comes together. And there's perfect harmony. You can see it in Brooks Koepka, somewhere around the middle of the round, you know, as Paige said, 4th, 5th, 6th hole, he started to just, his rhythm smoothed out. And so one of the paradoxes of flow has to do with results. So even though someone is chasing results, they're not thinking about those results. And in his interview, he said, one shot at a time. You know, he referenced his phone call with Dustin Johnson saying it didn't last very long. It's just, hey, man, do what you do. Be patient. It will come. And so not overthinking, playing one shot at a time, but not thinking too much about those results, all allow it to galvanize into that zone.
You mentioned Dustin Johnson, and people are looking at this friendship between DJ and Brooks Koepka. They look similar. They talk similar. They walk. Look at this. They're sauntering down the fairway like a cat, like a panther. I mean, and that's a calmness that at least exterior, it looks like they're meant to win major championships. This connection, this friendship, the fact DJ won the U.S. Open a year before, the fact they work out together. Are we seeing the results of that as well?
Well, for sure, right? It's what we call collective flow. So there's individual flow and sort of collective flow when there's a dynamic thing. Let's not forget, Ricky Fowler and Justin Thomas were sharing a house this week.
Yes.
And there's that group, you know, there's Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler. So there's cliques and out on tour and people who do things together and they support each other and build each other up. When Tiger was out on tour, Phil Mickelson has his group of guys.
Right.
And so everyone sort of supports each other, and you got to find that out on tour. One of the hardest things for a rookie, interestingly enough, is they get out there and they feel isolated and alone and sometimes marginalized. So to find that, there's no doubt that it matters. It shows up on the scoreboard and the comfortability and so forth, especially during the adversity of the game, which Brooks clearly went through. But Rory McIlroy's a good friend of his. They lift each other up. So it's an individual accomplishment, but no doubt there's a momentum factor that comes from your peer group out there.
It's a very small percentage, Dr. Gio, that can hit the ball like Brooks Koepka or Dustin Johnson. The folks watching at home, we're not going to be able to hit a ball like that. But what would you like the viewer to take away from Brooks Koepka's week?
So, pressure, right? What pressure does to a golfer. We see that at the U.S. Open every year. And what happens in the mind? And Paige referenced it. Sometimes we get tunnel vision, right? We start getting narrow, this narrowing in a bad way. What Koepka did that was so perfect, so textbook, and I'm going to attribute partially his Claude Harmon and the team of Harmons because they're such good coaches. They're actually a team of sports psychologists who are also coaches. They're a wonderful group of people who develop players. If you see the composure, his grip pressure remains soft. You can see that by how he released the putter head, so soft hands. The rhythm with which he played, right? Those are the two things that could often feel pressure, is tension and tempo. And the final thing were his reactions, right? You didn't see him get upset or frustrated or flustered. So those three things, if the viewer can take away three things from when they have to play a pressure round of golf, it's soft hands, play in rhythm, and don't overreact to bad shots. You do those three things, everything in your game will likely smooth out and you'll play better.
I got that. Dr. Gio is going to come back next hour with a very interesting take on Ricky Fowler. Thank you very much. Right now, we send it back over to LT.
Yeah, Damon, we've got a lot of guests coming up today. In fact, because still ahead on Morning Drive, Dr. Gio just mentioned him, a live talk with the swing instructor of our newly crowned U.S. Open champ, Claude Harmon III. He was out there with Brooks Koepka at Erin Hills throughout the week. He's going to tell you what goes into the process of creating a major winner and also those goals, something he called a dream come true for the guy who helps the guy with his swing. So now that the 27-year-old can cross off that esteemed accolade off his list, earn that trophy, the Jack Nicklaus medal, and a 10-year exemption into the U.S. Open moving forward, what's the next goal? Trust me, it's a big one, as you'll be pulling up a chair for the interview with Todd Lewis. He's got our winner, as well as what Brooks Koepka has learned from his friendship. More on that with the world #1 Dustin Johnson. Then we're going to get to the weekend that was on the LPGA Tour in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Lexi Thompson, she just nabbed her second straight runner-up finish, but from there, she jet-setted over to an event where one of our own is live all morning long. You saw him at the top of the show, Gary Williams. He's going to be joined by the major champion herself and get the goods on how her game stacks up with the FedEx Cup champ and the World Golf Hall of Famer that she's teeing it up with today. So clearly it is a Monday that you don't want to miss today on Morning Drive. We're all ready for it. Hope you are too. Damon, what about that tee time with Lexi?
I wish I was playing. Right? Soft hands. I'd have soft hands,
and
Dr.
chill.
Gilson.
Chill like Brooks Koepka.